Oh, you made it.
Made it.
How was it?
Holding snow.
Yeah, we were.
Okay, I think
No, if you need it, go.
No, it doesn't matter. I don't think it will be long, but I didn't want to bother you either.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started. If everyone can mute their lines just to avoid any feedback, I would appreciate it. We're getting a little on my end at least. Okay, hope everyone's staying warm. I just looked out a little bit ago and went and told my staff it's snowing again. Did not know that. Thought we were out of snow, but we are not. So we'll go ahead and get started. We'll kind of do what we did last time. We'll run through the agenda, get everyone's questions answered. If we have time at the end, we'll open it up to any other questions. If you think of anything after today, please don't hesitate to let us know. The only thing I ask is make sure that if you send me an email, CC June or George or both of them on there, just so we make sure that it doesn't get overlooked and we get an answer quick. We'll start with 26-27 applications since it's nearing us. Many of you reached out regarding the exhibits showing 25 or 24 to 25 dates on there. Those have been updated. Those are available on the website now. The budget template, we bolded it so it's a little easier to find. Just a reminder that has to be used and submitted with your application, as that will be added to the new operating agreement. I did receive quite a few phone calls and questions regarding the budget template, just wanting to know why we have to do it that way. So I think we discussed this last time. So the state only gets a set amount. We can't go ask the FTA for any more additional funding. So we get a set amount. The problem that we are seeing consistently is the need for supplements. A lot of folks are running low on funds earlier than they should be. Whether it's something like inflation wasn't taken into account, pay raises came into play, or maybe there was an expense that they didn't reimburse that wasn't accounted for in the original budget. So it doesn't really matter either way. So that's where this is coming into play, and that's why we're asking for so much more detail this round. Going forward, if it's not accounted for in the budget, so if you submit something, an expense, and we reimburse it, that causes you to run low on funds, we can't promise that we're going to be able to supplement you depending on what the cost is. So that's why, again, we're pushing for this. We will have a new operating agreement. I know I mentioned that on the last phone call. We do, it's a little, it'll appear and it'll read differently than the one that has been used in the past. The old one was it's just outdated. So we updated it. There is a little bit more detail in it. So you'll notice it's a little bit longer. We're going to get that out in advance of actually executing those agreements, so that you all have a chance to review it and ask us any questions that you might have. Hope somebody's not muted. I can mute everyone's line. There we go. Just a reminder, March 21st deadline. I know a few of you have asked me that. June, what else do we want to go over here for the 26-27 applications?
Just want to point out some people were questioning the vehicles. The vehicles are on the budget template, but in the operating assistance naturally does not cover vehicles because vehicles is a separate application on the dashboard. So what we wanted to do though is give you guys a total local match that you're going to need for operating assistance and vehicles so that you can take it to your board or your city, county, and so forth. Vehicle applications for fiscal year 26 should not be entered in the portal or could be entered in the portal anytime after July 1st of 2025 and based on when you are needing them. The other thing would be, I think, are we going to talk about the the upload import that Clay talked about this morning, Sarah?
Yeah, it'll be a little different this year. So when you upload your budget, it's going to auto extract those numbers from your spreadsheet into the different pages. When you go through those tabs, just make sure you push the save button at the bottom, because although it auto fills it, it won't auto save it, because it basically wants you to confirm that those numbers match what it extracted from that spreadsheet. So there is a contact number and email on there on the portal page itself when you go through that. So if you need help or if it's not doing something it's supposed to, Clay will be watching for it. So please don't hesitate to reach out to him if there's troubleshooting issues on that
So,
end.
yeah, so he has not deployed that yet. That will come, I think, tomorrow, he said.
Yeah,
So you'll be able to see it when you start entering your operating systems application on the portal of the dashboard. So as long as the budget template we sent out to you did not move or change or move headings or columns, anything, it should upload correctly. And once you do upload it into the dashboard, you can always go in and make some changes if you had to, if something didn't upload correctly. And then just save each worksheet. You have to save each worksheet, by itself, each one.
All right. Anything else you want to cover on apps? Keep going.
Nope, I'm good. Okay, all right, keep going. Software updates. So I just want to make sure that you understand, once you get a quote and you get approval and so forth, the quote, if you send it to me, I can get started. You have to have an agreement between NDOT and yourself, the subrecipient. And we have to have that in place before you actually submit the invoice and proof of payment, supporting documents to be reimbursed. If you are, have an invoice from the software company and you are purchasing laptops, cases separately, included all in one email to me, so that I can do a total cost, and we then subtract the 10,000 for CARES, so that we know the remaining will be on 5311 invoice. And then that way I can give it to the reviewer, the person that's reviewing your invoice, so that they know in the month that you have proof of payment that that dollar amount is correct. When you do send in your invoice and proof of payment, with the CARES form. Now, I think I sent the CARES form out to everybody. If everybody didn't get it, let me know. But it's a one-page CARES reimbursement form to just put in information on there. What I've been telling people, to just add a note under the table part of it, that here's the total, here's 10,000 CARES, the remaining is on 5311 invoice. Once you get all that, I want all of it in one PDF. I don't want 3 or 4 PDFs, because that has to be sent to get uploaded in our payment system. And then when you do email all documents to myself and Sarah, not just to me, so we both have it. So if we have questions or need to look at it and so forth, we can do it. It's always good if your $10,000, once we get the agreement in place, the $10,000 CARES will be able to be reimbursed right away. You'll have to show proof of payment, your invoice and proof of payment, but depending on where you're at with your 5311 invoice, that you may not get that reimbursement for a few months, once the proof of payment of software is cleared the bank. So you want to make sure and get the $10,000 in, and you can get that reimbursed right away. I think that's all on software. I know I've got a few that I need to get things going and get the agreement going. So don't hesitate to reach out to me and say, hey, where's this at, if you sent me an email. So could get buried with everything else. So.
And I know I think I owe 2 of you still an email, follow-up email. Just as a reminder, NDOT cannot pay for the expense in advance. It has to be incurred by you guys. So we just show that proof of we need that proof of payment in order to reimburse it, because we can't pay for it up front. So I'll if you're waiting on an email from me, I think there's 2 that were waiting on it for a board. So I will get that to you. It's on my list. As soon as I hopefully get it off of this call, I will get to those 2. So I'll get that up to you. Okay. Let's see here. Audit.
Can I ask a question about that? This is Carla from Blue Rivers. about
Yep.
the software update.
Yep.
We're currently, the invoice, we don't have the invoice, we have the agreement from our vendor. And we're having a lawyer look it over just to make sure it's okay, because that's what they wanted. And then we have to send that to you yet for your approval before,
No, it's,
or if you already approved it.
yeah, if you are, if you pulled it, if you selected a vendor off of the pre-approved list. So as long as it's off the pre-approved list, you're good to go. We just need, so that we can get a head start, so we don't delay your CARES reimbursement. As soon as you get to that point, if you just send us over the final estimate and the final draft agreement, then we can start working on getting the programming done for our controller, so that we can get a little bit of a head start. That way we're not delaying we're not going to delay getting the CARES reimbursement through, if that makes
Because-
sense. But no,
Because
I don't need to.
Yeah, I'm sorry. NDOT still needs an agreement between the subrecipient and NDOT to reimburse you the CARES. So the agreement between the subrecipient and the contractor is separate from the NDOT agreement.
That's what I was asking. So
Okay,
we still,
sorry, I misunderstood.
so we still have to send all that to you once our lawyer has approved that agreement with Tripmaster. And we have to send that to you so that you can approve it.
Yes,
Am I right?
because we need an agreement between NDOT and the subrecipient in order to reimburse you the 10,000 CARES.
Okay, it's about 158 pages, so I'll make sure I get that to you after our lawyer looks at it.
Well, no, June, we don't need to review her agreement between them and the vendor. We have a separate agreement, Carla, that we have to produce for CARES funds. So with the agreement between you and the vendor, we aren't approving that. We're only approving the agreement between you and us for the CARES money.
Okay.
Sorry.
Sorry, it's kind of confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure we're doing it correctly the first time.
Yep.
We just need to know the total cost of the software. If it's just through the software vendor, or like I said, if you were purchasing laptops separately, the total, so that we can take the total minus the 10,000. So we know what's going to be on your 5311 invoice in the dashboard at the time you get to that invoice in the dashboard.
All right, thank you. Yes, we have everything but the laptop price. Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
June, sorry to interrupt. June, did you say that you'd be sending those agreements out soon? Because I know you and I had talked a couple of weeks ago and we were just waiting to receive the agreement
Yes, well,
where we could have.
the agreements are not processed or generated by us. It's generated by someone else in our department. So that agreement, I just got it today to review for you, for Luke.
I was just
So-
double checking. I thought that's what you said. I
know.
was double checking. Thank you.
Yep, I know, it's a process and it depends on people in the office and so forth. So, yeah, I just got it today, so.
Sweet. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move
Okay.
into audits. So NDOT just got out of our annual state single audit, so I am excited to report that the supporting documentation requirements are working. This year we had far less findings than previous years, so that's great news. I'm not going to go through any of the detailed report, but I am going to read through the summary, just so you guys are kind of aware of what they were questioning and what they had findings in. So in the report out, it had subrecipients that were tested, did not have adequate support for all personnel charges. So for instance, one tested was reimbursed at a non-operating rate and should have been reimbursed at an operating rate. Just something to watch. Another had, whoops, I'm getting feedback. There we go. Another individual's personnel costs were based on budgeted amounts rather than actual amounts. Fuel costs for a subrecipient did not agree with the invoices submitted. One subrecipient did not properly report revenues collected, resulting in an overcharge of the federal reimbursement. Subrecipients had capital and non-operating costs that were not adequately supported. Cost allocated between programs was not adequately supported. Travel costs did not appear reasonable. And then there was fundraising costs that were charged. So those were the main findings in the report. Most of the other, I would say all the other ones that they did question, we were able to pretty quickly address with the supporting documentation that was provided by those that were selected. So overall, it's good. For those that did have official findings, we'll coordinate that with you guys separately. But I just wanted to report that out because it was a good audit this round, and so we were happy with those results. Now it's our turn. So we were notified. So this is our year, NDOT's year. So we are getting our FTA state management review this year. So we are currently working on pulling together all of the supporting documentation and items that they have requested that are due in March. So if you do get either me or June or Carly reach out to you, like I said, that's due in March. So if you receive a request from us pertaining to any of the items that we're looking for that maybe we don't have, just because it might have been pre-me, if you could respond within 48 hours, and either if you can't find it, let us know at least. That way we at least can get a better time frame as to when we think we're going to receive those. I'm hoping not to have to reach out to you guys, but if we do, I'm just putting that out there that's what that's for. Let's see here. What do we have next? Cost allocation plans. Tammy, are you on the phone? I think you are.
Yes.
Okay. You want to go through this one?
Sure. I suppose. So, excuse me one moment. Okay, so I have created a cost allocation plan sample that will be coming out to you, along with a template, which it's pretty much the sample minus the template information, or minus the information that's filled in the sample. So, but that sample gives you a description of what's required to be in those sections so that you can easily fill it out. It keeps everything consistent for everybody. And then it will also help us keep your rates on a annual basis rather than having just signed rates that just keep going and getting signed year after year, even though the piece of paper hasn't changed. So we're trying to get the files updated and on file on an annual basis with all of that information. And then if you have any calculation issues or any questions, feel free to contact me. Sarah will have that information in the email that goes out to you. And then we will have a couple other auditors here in the office helping me with those as well. So I'm hoping it's a straightforward thing for you all, but if you do have questions, do not hesitate to reach out and ask. So I am thinking about getting a email set up so that you guys can contact us if you need something for those cost allocation plans. So if that happens, I will let Sarah know so she can get that information out to you. Otherwise, just feel free to contact me at my direct email. So. I think that's all I have.
Okay. All right. June.
Okay, local match. Want to touch on this. We've had a lot of questions throughout the fiscal year. Your actual year-to-date versus your calculated year-to-date local match on your summary invoice. I believe it's line 33 or 34. You need to take and make sure you watch that, especially if you are having to use some Medicaid, MTM, Motive Care, Title 20 sponsored fares dollars for local match. We cannot have for NTD reporting, for Carly to report, we need to make sure that if actual year to date is more than calculated year to date, that any of the sponsored fares get reported on 1A operating revenue rather than local match. so that it is reported correctly with NTD. Also, if the actual year to date is much higher, we only want, like the city county funds. So if all your local match is coming from a city county, let's say, and you do not use any Medicaid trips for local match, that is up to you to monitor and let's say keep track of. You don't have to put it on the dashboard, because if you say the local match is, you put in for your actual year to date is 50,000 and calculated is 40,000 at the end of the fiscal year, that 10,000 you reported in that fiscal year cannot be used for the next fiscal year. So you need to keep of that yourself from a city, county, or other local match, different counties that you get local match from. If your local match, let's say your local match actual year to date can be lower than the calculated throughout the fiscal year, but must be equal to or higher at the end of the fiscal year. So you keep a ledger or something if you've got city, county funds coming in that are way more than you need on the dashboard invoice, then keep a ledger of your own saying county funds coming in is X amount, county funds going out to meet the local match requirements on the dashboard goes out. So you have like a net county funds ledger, if you will. And especially with the Medicaid sponsored fares, you cannot put more in. So you have to report Medicaid sponsored fares in the month you receive the payment. So for that month, if your actual year to date is higher than the calculated, you must put the sponsored fares on operating revenue 1A. Now, if you need some on 1A and 1B, you would take a whole payment. Don't split up a payment. Say MTM gave you $50 for a ride and that's all and you only needed 40 for local match. Put all 50 on local match. A little bit over is fine, but not thousands, 5,000, 10,000, $20,000 more.
Hey, June, I think Christy has a question.
Yep.
Hey, June. Okay, so one of the examples I would have on how you would like us to put that in there is because of, cash flow, the county has given me, say, $300,000 match to put in there to make sure that our fund has enough cash flow, which definitely is not revenue. But all aside, right, it's more for cash flow than it is really to match. How do you handle that? Do I just, because when I send in my reports, obviously I send a treasurer's report, that's signed off that says each amount of money that's in there, and it does show that it's a transfer versus a match. Do we just not claim it anywhere on the invoice, or
That's
make it
pretty much the money you get from your county is your money to manage yourself. I mean, what we need on the dashboard is only your 25% for operating, 10% for non-operating match in the dashboard.
Okay.
Now, if you show a transfer or something that you get that's more than what you need for 1 month, that could carry you for 2 or 3, 4 months.
Correct.
On the dashboard. Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure, because I know sometimes you guys question that the documents don't equal what is shown on the NDOT invoice. And so I just wanted to make sure that we are answering both of those questions, right? One, showing the dollars that need to match, but also if there's money there that is in excess and is not on the NDOT invoice, either because it's the match for vehicles or it's just like we said, a transfer in for cash flow. Is that going to be okay that the total receipts for that month don't match the total receipts on the NDOT invoice?
Yes, I think just a note about it in the submitters box that you just say, any excess is is not needed on the portal because it's for something else. Just put a quick note in the submitters box.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay.
And if you have something where, like, if you have a specific example or something like Christy does and you think about it later, don't hesitate to call us because
Right, yeah, definitely. Because I know our reviewers are reaching out to you if your actual year-to-date is way more than your calculated year-to-date on your invoice, so that we can start correcting that if you're using sponsored fares for local match. So. Okay, I'm done.
Any other questions on local match before we go to NTD?
I had a quick question, Sarah, and it's for June.
Okay.
June, it used to be that we just had to make sure that our local match requirement was met by the end of the fiscal year, correct?
Yes, yes.
For each fiscal year
For each
or at
fiscal
the
year.
Okay,
Each, yeah, so for 26, you have to meet it by the end of 26. For 27, you have to meet it by the end of 27. So just because we're
Okay.
doing a 2-year agreement, doesn't, you have to do each fiscal year for local match.
okay, thank you.
Dana, did you have a question?
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't get this asked earlier when you were talking about the budget. I'm not sure if I caught this right. The 5-year Excel budget that we're using, did I understand that that is going to be uploaded to the dashboard and that's going to feed into our operating assistance? Or are we mainly entering numbers into the operating assistance application?
So that Excel spreadsheet, that budget spreadsheet, you're going to upload that into the dashboard when you start doing your application. That application, so within the portal, it's going to pull those numbers from it once you upload it. So when you go to the next tab, there will be numbers showing in there because it extracted that information from that Excel spreadsheet that you uploaded. So you just have to confirm that the numbers that it extracted look accurate and push the save button and then go to the next tab.
But that option's not available in the dashboard yet. Clay is
Tomorrow it
working
will
on
be.
it and it should be there tomorrow, I think is what he's told us.
Yes.
Okay.
So once you start I'm sorry, once you start your application in the dashboard, there'll be a tab that it'll tell you upload your budget template and you'll have to click on some links and so forth. So
Okay, so I opened up that operating assistance this morning. Do I want to scrap that out altogether or do I just leave it and it'll still pull in? What's the best way?
I would say leave it and log back in tomorrow and see if it'll do it. And then if
Yeah.
it doesn't do it, you can contact Clay to see if he can manually override it, rather than taking time to continue filling all those numbers out again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's going to
Okay.
migrate. He's supposed to be starting the migrate process today. So it should be uploaded by tomorrow morning. You should see it.
Yeah, I can answer that question for you, Dana.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, hi, I'm here.
Oh.
If you have already started your application for the 26-27 operating assistance, what you have there is still there. It is not gone. Nothing will be replaced unless you take an action to import it and replace it. If you have already uploaded your budget file,
No.
You will likely need to upload it again into a specific worksheet on the form. There's one worksheet where you drag and drop that budget file, and from there it will pull it and allow you to click the button to do the import.
Okay. So on that Excel file, if I change some, like sometimes one of the categories would have other and it might have it listed. And for my own purposes, just trying to follow it through, I renamed it. Is that going to flood over too? Or do I just need to make sure that all my numbers are in the right operating and non-operating, even though they might not flood over the exact same?
As long as the main headers on the sections, like the ones that say, this is where the operating start and this is where the non-operating start, right? Those particular big all caps bolded words are important. The names of each individual line item under those are not as important, and those will flow into the worksheets for you. So if you changed it from MISC to something else or from other to something else, that won't cause a problem. That should import just fine. So long as the structure of that budget template Excel file is the same, the import should go through no problem. And of course, you can email the support at the portal if you're running into any issues, and I can help you with it.
Okay. One last question on budget. I'm sorry, I'm asking a lot of questions. I get the Excel, I get the operating assistance. We also went through the TDP, with someone from Olson, are we supposed to upload that as well?
Yep. You'll upload that with all the other attachments so that when you drag and sorry, I can't talk today. When you drag and drop like your exhibits and stuff, just drop it in there and we'll
Okay.
look at it there.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Kurt?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, quick question probably for Clay. I visited with June a little bit, and with the county budget, I use all Ottawa Republic accounts, GL codes. Is there any issues with adding lines to that spreadsheet to further break down the expense categories for my county budget purposes? Because certain things in the county budget are more detailed than the spreadsheet for the 2-year operating agreement, and certain things are the opposite. And so I'm trying to tie GL codes to everything, and then, like I said, break it down more specifically on my end so I can just push that into my budget for the county when I have to present it to my board. Are there any issues with that? Is that something I need to work through one-on-one, Clay, or?
Technologically, importing them into the portal, there shouldn't be an issue with that as long as the main categories are still the same. So if you've seen this budget spreadsheet, there's sort of big colored blocks on those 2 sheets, right? The ones that are operating, whatever, and non-operating, this and that, local match, those are the ones we're looking for. As long as those still stay the same, and as long as the totals are over in column T, it should pull them.
Okay.
And it'll pull whatever name you give it. Like I said, the individual line item names are not something the portal cares too tremendously about. So from a technological point of view, that should work. And like I said, if we run into any issues with it, just, shoot us an email and I'll see what I can do.
Okay, thanks, Clay.
Hey, one thing, Clay, also, once you upload it and import it into the dashboard operating assistance application, and you see, oh, there was an error you need to add or something, you can change the numbers in the portal in the application rather than changing your spreadsheet and re-uploading it again. If it's just a correction or something.
Yeah, that's right. After you've done the upload, all of the numbers that it pulls will still be editable in the other worksheets of the form. So in case it did something wrong. So if you need to make changes there, you can. They will not change back into the spreadsheet if you change them in the form, but you don't need to redo the whole upload again if something was off. You can just fix it right there.
Okay. Don't think I've seen anyone else with a question. Okay. All right. Do you think of anything else again? Let us know. We have Clay on speed dial. All right, we'll move into NTD reporting. Let me share the screenshot so that.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I can talk while you're pulling that up, Sarah. We have almost wrapped up all of NTD. We're just waiting to hear back from FTA regarding the 24 report. I'm pretty excited about that. You guys were really helpful in responding to all of the questions I had when I was working through the many validation issues that we had there. I have been working with some of you already to correct some of the validation issues that we had last year. So what they do is compare the former year to the current year, and so they were doing 23 and 24 this last reporting year. With moving into 25, and it's wild that we're in February because it's like, oh my gosh, 25 is almost over. So we're working to make sure that the 24-25 validation issues are a lot smoother, and that we have all the information we need when there is a 10% variance. So what they do is compare all the different like operating statistics, in addition, what you'll find on 4A, in addition to how much money is expended, how much fares you receive, how many rides there are there. They compare everything in that regard. And so one of the things to kind of help us track this and make sure we're on top of it is to take the validation reports in 4A They in the past were monthly. When you did your monthly invoice, they would pop up and say, hey, there's been a more than a 10% variance or change in this. Please explain why. And then in the most current years, they've been only yearly or annually, and we're taking it back to monthly. And so what Sarah has pulled up is what it will look like. So it's slightly different, hopefully a little bit easier to understand. And it will show you what the month was prior. So like in this example, July 2022 compared to July 2021, if there is more than a 10% difference, we need an explanation as to why. So on this first one, the revenue hours. So what we're looking for is what happened, how, why. We put an example of during the month of July, the demand for longer distance services decreased. This is because something that's happening in the community. Maybe there was a new doctor's office established, so more people are going to this new doctor's office versus traveling so far away. Often hours and miles are connected with each other. So if you have one moving decreased hours, oftentimes there's decreased miles. And so usually you'll kind of see those go together, but sometimes that's not the case. We just really need to have an explanation of when things changed in the community, what's happening in the community, and why there was a change. I got a lot of questions from NTD asking, well, was there a change in service? And a lot of the answers like, well, not necessarily a change in service, but the riders are what they're asking for is different. So you'll see that with the operating statistics. And when I pull my reports, I will be able to see what's happening so far in the year based on what's been reported. And I will be monitoring those and looking at those to see if there's anything that that is really glaring at me that this is going to be issued that moving forward with fiscal year 25 annual report. There's a few of you that I do, like I said, I have been working with some of you on making sure that we are reporting things accurately. And I still have a few of you that I'm going to be reaching out to, as well as sending you the NTD manual with specific information on what it is that you need to be understanding better and how you need to report it. Things that were common issues were the sponsored fares and regular fares. So there was a lot of confusion for some people where they were reporting, they weren't sure where to put what a sponsored fare was, or an organization paid fare is what they call it on NTD. And so this is a fare where anyone but the passenger is paying for the fare. So this is going to be like your mode of care rides, or maybe you have a contract with a business that is paying for their employees to get a ride somewhere. Those are the sponsored rides. So it's the sponsored fares and then sponsored rides. In addition to that, the boarding, so the boardings and the fares need to coordinate with each other. When the sponsored fare is paid, like later down, that's when you're going to want to report when those rides were. They need to go with each other, because otherwise it puts things out of balance. And so it's like they look at how much, they'll look at the rides and they'll be like, hey, like this is how much your fares average. Is this accurate? This doesn't seem accurate. Like maybe you said that on your website you charge $1 for a ride, but you're only averaging 50 cents per ride. That's an issue. And so just making sure that we're accurately putting in those numbers. We can go back and have them changed on 4A if necessary. So I'm going to be looking at those. Do you have any questions?
I do have a question. This is Carla Frazee. And I was just working on that budget because we needed to put it into our press release for our public notice of hearing, because these applications are due right around the corner. So you got to have all that budget in place. And those sponsored fares, those are located in a different area in your worksheets as compared with your local matches. So how can we have those MTMs in both places? Because they would be, if Sarah had just got done saying that those matches can be your MTMs and such.
Right.
But when you
So-
have these sponsored fairs, those are in a different place and they come right off the top of the operating federal dollars before you configure that.
So when you,
So
I just did all those
Go ahead,
spreadsheets last week.
yep, so if you're using them as local match, we will be able to pull those off the local match report. It's if you met your local match, then those need to be transferred back over to your sponsored fair. So what you're doing, Carla, is correct. So as long as when you log them in as your local match, as long as they're labeled correctly as Motive Care or MTM or whatever, we can extract those from your local match because you're using them as local match, but we're going to report them as a sponsored fair. It's when we're moving everything to local match, we've exceeded the local match. That's where we're running into figure issues. So what you're doing is fine.
yes.
Okay.
My side, I manipulate the data. If you're needing that and you're reporting it there, I pull the report and I'm like, okay, these are their sponsored fairs. So when you put that in for that monthly invoice for that local match time, that's when you would report that ride as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Pull up the agenda. Vicky, did you have a question?
I do. So I'm confused about this, about recording the fares or the boardings. So if I'm understanding, are we supposed to like only report the ride as a boarding in the month that we get the money? Is that what you just said?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so, so say for instance, you have 500 rides in the month of February, but 25 of those were for, MTM, and we know that money's not gonna come until, hopefully March. So that 20, we would only report 475 boardings.
Would the
That's
payment,
how you want us to do that?
would the payment show in your March invoice? Would it show in your
Probably.
Okay. So as long as it's
Well, I guess because are you making, I'm not doing this now. I've done it for years, but Jenny isn't on. So I think with MTM, that's what we're doing because we don't necessarily know exactly what we're going to get, maybe each for each one. So we wouldn't, I think we're recording those as the revenue in the month that we get it. So then we're going to have to pull those boardings back out from the total and only report them when we get the check. Is that or the deposit?
No, I think I know what you're talking about. Let me look at it. I'll email you guys a response. I think I know what you're talking about. Let me go look at it.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's kind of a nightmare because that's what we've been told to do. And it can, it's really burdensome. I mean, to try to keep it straight, if we have to report the fares in one month and the actual ridership for sponsored rides in another month and trying to keep it all straight. It's like in our case, we weren't paid for like a couple of years from Motive Care and from some of our health and human services. And even like with the Department of Labor, I mean, we're still waiting for the last 40-some thousand dollars that they owe us from COVID. And so it's hard.
Let me pull the email from NTD. We'll send an email out after this because we have an
Okay.
email. So we'll pull it. I think I know what you're talking about.
Thank you.
Okay. Carly, anything else you want to cover on NTD?
Nope.
Okay. Vehicle updates. It's always my favorite topic. Okay. Non-ADA bid package. It has been put out to bid.
Sarah, you missed number 8, portal updates.
Oh, sorry.
Just
Portal updates. Yes, we'll go back one. This is just your annual reminder, biannual reminder. Tara asked me to remind everyone. Make sure you check the portal and ensure that the information in there is still accurate since we're at the beginning of the year. And when I'm talking like your contact information, your point of contact, your territory, things like that. If you do have a change to your service area or your fares, please reference your Title VI plan, as there are requirements, and I believe it's in Section 7 or Section 9 that have to be met. So if you're changing your fare or you're changing your, let's say you have gone from city to county, that's a change in service. So make sure you reference what you have in your Title VI plan and what you need to do. And then if you are required to do a public notice or a public hearing, please send us your affidavit, because we need that for the Title VI file for when we get audited. And when you send those in, please make sure you send them to both George and I, so we can make sure to get those uploaded to the files. So that was what that one was for. And if you have questions on your Title VI plan, reach out to me. I can help you with that. Vehicle updates. No, I think that was out. Yeah, that's all I have for that one. Vehicle updates. So non-ADA bid package, it has been sent out. It is open for bid, I believe, until the end of the month. So once it closes, if we get any bids, we'll review those to make sure that they meet the specs and the requirements the FTA requires, and then we'll go from there. As far as status on pass orders, I've been getting quite a few calls on this. Once we know, I promise you guys are finding out. So as soon as that vehicle is assigned a VIN number, usually at the same time, our vendor gets a notice of when they anticipate a delivery date. As soon as we find out, I've been calling you guys just to give you a heads up as to, hey, it's in KC, which usually means it's 2 to 3 weeks out from getting to us. Just as a reminder, even though it's only like, if it's on the ground in Kansas City and it's headed here, it does not mean as soon as it hits the ground here, I can release it. We have to wait for all the paperwork to clear. So the process is different. Once it hits here, it has to go through 2 inspections. It has to go through NDOT inspection, which is pretty quick. And then it has to go through the State Patrol inspection, because the vehicle is not it was not purchased in Nebraska. So that does delay a few things, because we cannot get the titles transferred until after the State Patrol reviews it. So just keep that in mind. I know you guys have been patient. We are moving as quickly as we can. We are getting quite a few trucks in. We're starting to see more transits and more buses. So as soon as I get notice, I know, especially with the weather situation, I'm trying to give you guys a heads up. So if you have to carpool in or something, you guys can make those accommodations. The Ford Transits, if you guys did order one, if you did not get this information from Wayne, please send me and George an email. If you don't have your FIN code, let us know. We will send you the instructions on what to do for your FIN code, because each transit has to have a FIN code. You should have gotten that set up by now, but if you didn't and you are waiting on one, waiting on a transit to come in, just shoot us an email and we'll get you the information to get that set up through Ford, because you're going to need that for them to deliver it to Nebraska. I think it's like a 5-digit code, right, George? I think it's 5 digits. So just a heads up on those. 2024 applications. I apologize. I know a few of you had those sitting in there. I thought they were ready to go. They're not yet. So they are approved. If they're approved in the portal, we'll get them ordered as soon as we can. We're trying to get Wayne's position refilled as quickly as we can. It's just, given the influx of deliveries, it's just slowing up the purchase order process. So we'll get to it. So don't be concerned. If it's been approved in the portal, that means all the required documentation is in there. And we just got to literally submit the purchase order for it. We'll get it in there, I promise. You'll see a agreement come through from us. Once the agreement comes through, as soon as I get that signed, then that can be processed to the vendor. And then the disposition process reminders. Please do not sell a federally funded vehicle without notifying NDOT first. Those vehicles, you've got to fill out a disposition request. That disposition request has to be approved. In order to dispose of a federal asset, you have to get 2 valuations, and it cannot include a Kelley Blue Book, because it has to be a third party assessing the condition of the vehicle. Once we have those 2 valuations submitted along with the disposition request, we can determine what the remaining local interest is in the vehicle and what the remaining federal interest is in the vehicle. Then we can work with you to get that disposed of. We have to have that documented. It's in our state management plan. If that process is not followed, we will get dinged on it. So if you're not sure what to do, if you get to that situation where you're like, I got to get rid of this vehicle, if you can't, give George a call, he can walk you through it. There's a lot of them going through, but there's quite a few that we're finding out that have not, we didn't know about, that were disposed. So we're trying to figure out how to document that without knowing about it. So just keep that in mind as you go through those. And then last but not least, travel and training follow-up. So I had sent an email out in January. I only got 4 emails of folks that are planning on attending any of the upcoming conferences. So like the Drug and Alcohol Conference is one that has been pretty popular. That one's in March. The CTAA is in June. And then there's the Midwest Conference, which is in Kansas City in September. If you wish to attend any of these, please let us know by the end of the week so that we can get a gauge on what the remaining budget is. My understanding is in the past, when they do those Midwest conferences in Kansas City, a lot of you like to attend those. That's fine. I just need to make sure that if we have an influx of people going to those, how much money is remaining for the other conferences in case someone wishes to attend those. So just let me know by Friday if you can, and please include June on there so we can keep track of them all. The fiscal 26, 27 trainings and conferences. So we've been working with NATP. We're trying to combine a lot of the trainings and conferences where we can, just to reduce the amount of events throughout the year and control some of those expenditures. So once we finalize those changes for 26, 27, we'll notify you guys. I'm just letting you know so you're not trying to figure out, well, why is this coming out all of a sudden? So and then last but not least, the pre-approval clarification. So there we found it was discovered last week. So there was an error in the guidance document that's being updated. We should have it posted probably tomorrow or Thursday. So if you have a physical copy of the guidance document, throw that one away on Wednesday and print off the new one. It'll have the revision in there. Me and June do not need to prove your in-state training. So if you are going to training in state, you do not need to get pre-approval for that. It is only out of state, which you have to have the travel form and everything submitted to me so I can approve it. It was just an error, typing error in the guidance document. So that has been updated. We are, just so you know, we are cross-training staff here just to help for coverage purposes. So if something doesn't look right, send June a question or an email, or give her a call, or call me if she's not here, and we'll look into it. But just so you're aware that everybody is being cross-trained here. So if something that normally you wouldn't have an issue getting through it and it's being questioned, just ask. And that is, I think, the last of it. So we still have 8 minutes to spare. I knew we could talk fast. Who has questions?
Sarah, I had a question or two.
Okay.
Okay, going back to the cost allocation, when Tammy is talking about cost allocation, what is it in regards to?
Tammy, are you still on?
Yeah. It has to
And the
do with
reason
the
I
rate
ask,
that you guys use.
pardon me?
With can you hear me?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Sorry. It goes with the rate that you would use, like either your indirect cost rate or your de minimis rate, if you use one of those in calculating your costs. It also helps with anything that would include for instance, if you had a building that was used by 2 separate entities to determine if there was common use space, that type of thing. In instance where there's like a county that runs a program, how do they allocate their costs out for the individuals that work on the transit stuff that's operational or non-operational, all of that type of thing. So not all of you are going to use the cost allocation plans, but the ones that do, that's what we're trying to get a consistency with.
So would that apply to our cost allocation between 5311 and 5311F? Or are you talking more about space and things you just
I can look
mentioned?
into that, and get back to you on that. I'm positive, I want to say yes, but, I can't say that I'm positive on that. So let
Well,
me,
I would have,
I will look into it in the morning. I'm actually on vacation today, but swung in so I could talk to you guys. So, but I will check in on it and I'll make sure that I have answers for you on that. So,
okay, because that's going to greatly affect how our budget was determined for the next 2 years.
Well, and your ICB, Johnny, is based on ridership percentage, so Tammy will look into it and get back to you on that.
I,
We Tammy and I can talk tomorrow if we need to, so.
okay, and then do we have any updates on funding for the ICB, for the intercity bus? Sarah, have you heard anything or do we know anything as
About,
far as the state allocation for intercity bus?
well, there won't be any, I guess I'm not sure what the answer is, what your question is. So the ICB is funded at 50% federal, 50% local. There is going to be a very, very small state fund available, but we won't know what that is until after all of the applications are in, because it would have to be divvied up amongst who is applying for the
applicants, yeah.
ICB. So that's why I said in that email, don't submit a budget including any guesstimate on what your state funds are. Base it off of 50% federal, 50% local.
Do you have a beginning budget for the state portion?
June, what was it? It's 500 and
535,000, I believe.
a year. Yeah.
Total
Yeah.
state portion for intercity bus funding?
Yes.
What's that? I'm sorry. Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
For all of our ICB providers. I mean, nonprofit. Not for profit, I should say, ones.
All right, thank you.
Dana, did you have a question?
Well, it's a question on whether an expense is allowable for like advertising or marketing. Just with going with the new guidelines, I just want to get an idea for how you would view this. Do I understand that we're not really having public transit week, but there was a legislative day on April 1st?
We'll still push out social and stuff like that for public transit week. And there is still a sorry, words are hard today. Legislative, or gosh, what is it called?
Legislative day, April 1st, yes.
Thank you. Yes, it is on April 1st. Sorry, I'm getting all these events mixed up in my head.
Yeah.
Yes, they still are both in play. The only thing that is going to change is the marketing things that UNK assisted with in the past are no longer available because those are deemed unallowable through the grant
Okay.
fund.
Okay. So one of my questions for advertising is,
The signs?
yes, the signs.
Yep. We're reviewing it. Yep, we're reviewing it. I'll get you an email back today.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Charles, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I was just asking about the public transit week. So April 1st is legislative day. And then when is public transit week scheduled?
Oh, I should know that. Let me look here. I believe
It's the same
I
week,
thought you said
Sarah.
like the second week of April, I thought, Sarah, maybe, was that it?
Yep, I think that's when I will look. I'll confirm it. When I send everything out, I'll confirm it. I believe it's the second week of April is when all.
Not.
Hello? Oh, I think it was somebody else. Okay. I will send it out, Charles, as soon as after this, when I send everything else out. I believe it's the second week of April is when all the stuff's going out.
Okay. And again, you said there's not any of the marketing materials coming at all, correct? If we want anything there, we have to order that ourselves.
Correct.
Okay.
And if you want it reimbursed, you'll need to, I would recommend submitting it to make sure that it's allowable before
Yes.
you, if you're expecting any reimbursement, because the majority of those items that were previously ordered were deemed unallowable. So
Do you roughly know what is offhand?
no, I can talk to Tammy and company and get you a list.
That, I think that would help us all maybe make sure, I mean, we're not chasing down something that isn't, allowable. I mean, these are the things that are allowable, and I think that would help us all probably a lot.
Okay.
If you could, just a simple list, I think would be fine.
Unless it changes, tentatively we're looking at Public Transit Week, April 13th through the 19th.
That sounds correct.
That's what the NET board tentatively
Yeah.
decided on.
Is that on their website? I think that's what it is. Cause we lined it up with what they gave me. I believe, yep, I think that's it. Okay. Any other questions we want to go through?
And Sarah, thank you for the help on the non-ADA vans. I always ask that, so thanks for getting that moving forward for us.
Yes, I was excited to see that go out. All right, well, I don't see any other questions. Thank you all for your time. I appreciate you guys jumping on. If there's anything that you want us to cover before the next quarterly call, let us know. If you did not get there, I sent out 4 invites. So if you did not receive those 4 invites last month for the quarterly calls, shoot me or George an email and we'll send it out to you. But yeah, ahead of those, we usually put the agenda together a week before the meetings. So if there's something that you want covered on there, or if you have questions about, let me know in advance and I can put it on there. But otherwise, stay warm. Hopefully the snow stops here soon. And we will talk to you later.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.